Welcome back, everyone. We have Calvin Ruda here with us from West Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Today, we're talking about how the weather impacts local animals. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. So whenever we see temperatures drop like they have been this past weekend, what's kind of that impact looking like for local wildlife?
So it's going to look a lot different depending upon the animal. But specifically when we have these kinds of snow and ice and extreme, like sub-freezing, sub-zero temperatures, it can be really difficult on a lot of them. One of the big ones we always talk about is possums. Possums have serious issues with frostbite. Their body temperature is already super low as it is, so they get hypothermia very easily.
Wow.
Their poor little feet and their ears don't have any fur on them. So we almost always get calls about them right afterwards. This is true for a lot of animals, and of course people are probably familiar with like feral cats and things like that they let inside. And so what we always say is that, for one, if people are going to see things, especially when it's cold like this, possums, raccoons, other animals, they're not going to show up in your garage in places that you're normally not going to see them. But they're just there until they can get warm, and then they can leave again.
Yeah.
They're not going to hang out there long term. And a lot of people get worried because, they come outside and they see some like random wild animal curled up in the corner of their garage or something, but it's just usually so cold they don't have anywhere else to be. Now, if you are at home or somebody else ever wants to try to help out with wild animals or with feral cats or anything, there's a couple things that people can do. So one of the big ones is outdoor kind of spaces for them to sleep. We always recommend straw bedding for them, and then like plastic containers, like the plastic totes that you can kind of cut a hole into.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can also use a blow dryer to get that plastic warm so it's easier to cut. The straw helps prevent moisture and keeps it kind of insulated and everything. And the plastic just, again, prevents moisture, because that's the big thing you don't want, is we don't want like blankets to be used, because those trap that water, and then they'll try to sleep in it and it gets real difficult for them. Inside, when people have things like a garage or something, in those terms, you can use like a cardboard box and a blanket. And now if you are putting out food or beds like that for something like a feral cat, do know that a possum or some other wild creature very easily could come in and use it themselves. And it's not just going to be for the feral cats, same with your feeding them or anything else like that. But they're going to really appreciate if you leave that space open for them at the same time. Now, one of the big things we did want to talk about with this cold weather is birds. We get a lot of birds. You see a lot of birds, especially on the ground. But this year, particularly, if anyone sees something like a raptor, right, that's going to be hawks, falcons, things like that, or if they see a waterfowl, so that's ducks or geese who seem sick or just aren't acting right, aren't able to fly, give us a call to come pick them up. That's specifically because the bird flu has been going down so bad this year, especially in the winter times, because those cold temperatures keep it alive. It can survive up to 26 days in water.
Wow.
And waterfowl can shed the virus up to 7 days after they get it. So generally speaking, you just don't know why it's on the ground. And so we just want to recommend to people, especially with these cold weathers and everything else, that if you see one and you're concerned about its safety, to give us a call if you're outside of city limits. And if you're in the city limits here in Amarillo, call the animal control or the health department, and they'll come pick it up for you.
Gotcha. And say like somebody does find a possum in their garage, what would you recommend they do?
So if the possum is just healthy and seems like it's just trying to find a warm place to stay, they can just leave it there. And then probably in the morning or as soon as kind of the temperatures warm up and the sun comes out, they'll be out of there and gone.
Okay, so definitely leave it cracked open.
Yeah, leave it cracked open. You don't need to like close it or anything for them. They just need a little bit of a wind and moisture block everything. They're not going to need to like fully seal them. If they seem sick or if they feel like maybe you're worried about frostbite or that they're like too cold, they can always call us and we can come pick them up or something if someone's concerned. Now, another thing about birds as well, people who take care of their songbirds, luckily, for one, those are not birds that we're seeing very many bird flu cases in. But another thing is, if you put bird feed out, keep putting bird feed out. That food helps keep them warm with all the energy and fuel. Same with like bird baths. If you want to fill up with like warm water, like early in the day or whatever, those things are all great and fine and fantastic for different animals.
Gotcha.
All right. Thanks, Calvin.
Yes, of course.
And don't go anywhere. He'll be back with us coming up on today. Thanks so much. Welcome back, everybody. We are back with Calvin from West Wildlife Rehabilitation. We're talking about the work that they do in the community. All right, so Calvin, we've been kind of talking about these winter weather preps for you all. Now, how do you kind of prepare the center for these extreme cold weather temps?
Yeah, so thankfully it was not quite as bad as everyone was thinking it was going to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of the prep we did was went above and beyond what was necessary for this storm. But we really like to stockpile, so we got ourselves a generator, so in case we lose power, we can restore that because we have a couple of animals in our care that need that kind of constant warmth. We try to stockpile like salt and food and basically all those kind of basic necessities and ensure that somebody is able to get out to the center regardless of kind of the conditions out there. And one of the things we'll do as well is that, of course, we have some outdoor animals who kind of stay out there all the time, especially like our 2 coyotes.
Yeah.
They have an outdoor enclosure. And a lot of times they'll be brought inside when it's really cold or we're worried about their safety. So we have a little baby possum named Oz. He was just like cool. The 2 days before it got cold was his first day outside to get used to being outside. Coming from like having a heated blanket and free food in the morning.
Oz got it made,
I know, but then it got super cold, so we brought him in. He's been staying with us. And then, of course, our educational ambassadors. If you'll remember, like Walter, the nutria I brought in a while back, they do really poor in the cold. So we had to take him from his enclosure that has a little pond in it, take him out away from that and put him in a different enclosure with a little cardboard box with straw. Because just in case, and in fact, there's a video of him right there hanging out, all covered in it. Because we didn't want him getting, just in case we lost power, we didn't want him getting all wet and then hanging out and something like that. So we made sure to get him somewhere like this. We've also got, they made maybe another video of it, of bobcat kittens we've got who we had set up these containers for. So basically just however we can make sure that, whatever the circumstance is going to be, right? If we lose power, if we get buried in snow, if ice makes us, cuts off the ability to get out there, whatever, we just want to try to cover as many bases as we can to try to make sure those animals are safe regardless of what happens out there.
Absolutely.
And as far as donations go, are y'all looking for more like warm donations during these winter months?
Yeah, those are always really appreciated, so stuff like blankets, straw, anything like that. But of course, regular donations are always appreciated too, right? Food and things like that. And of course, cash or time donations, right?
Absolutely.
Or it's the 2 big ones. Because, it always gives us that freedom to be able to figure out exactly what we're going to need given the circumstances. Because sometimes that's buying like a bunch of salt to prevent, because how icy it got. Thank goodness we got it, because I think a few of us would have busted it pretty hard outside.
Oh, man.
Can't have that, man. Can't have that. All right, Calvin, thanks so much for being here this morning,
of course,
man.
thank y'all.
Yes, sir. Always good to have you.